Somewhere in your owner's manual packet right now, there's a sales pitch waiting to happen. It's the Rust Protection Package. The finance manager slides it across the desk like it's a no-brainer, quotes you a number somewhere north of $700, and tells you your frame will rot into a pile of orange dust without it. Here's what they don't mention. A fair number of the products sold to protect your car actually trap moisture against bare metal and make the rot worse, not better. And the fix that actually works costs about as much as a fast food lunch. Let's count down 11 of the worst rust traps in the automotive world, and the one cheap trick that beats all of them. Number 11. The dealership rubberized undercoat. This is the classic finance office upsell. A technician sprays a thick black rubber coating across your frame, and for the first few months it looks incredible. Uniform, glossy, brand new. The problem is physics. Steel frames flex constantly as you drive, absorbing shock from potholes and uneven pavement. Rubber coating cures rigid. Rigid material doesn't flex with moving steel, it cracks. Once hairline cracks form, road slush and salt seep in, and because the rubber shell is waterproof, that moisture never escapes. It just sits against bare metal, in the dark, accelerating corrosion you can't see until the coating finally peels and reveals frame steel that's already crumbling. The cruelest part of this trap is the timeline. The damage usually doesn't surface until well after the sale is final and the dealership has moved on to the next customer, so the people who sold you the protection never have to answer for what it actually did. Number 10. The Electronic Anti-Rust Module. This little plastic box with a blinking light gets sold as cathodic protection, borrowing a legitimate term from bridge and pipeline engineering. The catch: cathodic protection only works when the entire metal structure sits inside a continuous conductive medium, like seawater or wet soil. Your car sits on 4 rubber tires, rolling through open air. There's no electrolyte bath for the current to travel through, so the circuit has nowhere to go. The only measurable effect is a slow trickle of battery drain while the car sits in your driveway. The blinking light is doing exactly one job, and it isn't protecting your frame, it's reassuring you that something is happening, which is a very different thing. Number 9. The Expanding Foam Rocker Panel Patch. When rust starts bubbling along the rocker panels, some owners skip the body shop and grab a can of spray foam instead. It expands to fill the cavity, gets shaved flat, and disappears under a layer of filler and paint. Looks clean. Underneath, it's a sponge. Foam is porous by nature, so any moisture that gets in, rain, condensation, road spray, gets held permanently against the steel instead of draining or drying out. A rust spot that might have taken years to spread can consume an entire panel in a single wet season. If you're buying a used car and a rocker panel sounds dull and muffled instead of a crisp metallic ping when you knock on it, that's foam talking, and it's usually a sign the seller already knew about the rust and chose to bury it instead of fixing it. Number 8. Asphalt-Based Wheel Well Coating. Sold in tall cans at the auto parts store, this tar-like spray promises noise deadening and rock chip protection. It shares the same flaw as rubberized undercoating, plus an extra one. The solvents that keep it pliable in the can evaporate over time, leaving the coating dry and brittle within a year. Brittle coating cracks with road vibration, and once it cracks, it traps salt spray against the wheel well exactly like the rubber coating does, except wheel wells are often thinner metal feeding directly into shock tower mounting points, which means the failure point here isn't just cosmetic, it's tied to suspension geometry that you genuinely don't want surprising you at highway speed. Number 7. Spraying used motor oil underneath the car. This one's an old-timer's trick, and it sounds almost reasonable. Oil repels water, so coat the frame in oil. The reality is messier. Used engine oil carries acidic combustion byproducts and metal particulates that can degrade rubber bushings, CV boots, and brake lines on contact. It also has zero staying power. A few miles in the rain and highway spray washes it straight off the spots that take the most abuse. You trade long-term suspension health for a few weeks of marginal, uneven coverage, and you're left smelling like a quick lube for the privilege. Number 6. Aerosol Rust Converter Sprays. These promise to turn flaking orange rust into a smooth, paintable black surface in minutes, and visually, they deliver. Chemically, most aerosol formulations are diluted enough that they only react with a thin surface layer of rust, not the corrosion sitting just beneath it. You end up painting a fresh top coat onto a foundation that's still actively rusting underneath. Within months, the trapped corrosion keeps expanding, and your new paint flakes off in sheets, and at that point you're often worse off than if you'd never sprayed it, because now there's paint and converter residue mixed into the rust, making it messier to treat properly the second time around. Number 5. Wire wheel grinding followed by standard paint. DIY rust fighters love this one because it feels productive. Hours on your back with an angle grinder, watching brown rust turn into shiny metal. The issue is what a spinning wire wheel actually does to steel. It tends to smear and burnish surface rust rather than fully remove it, folding a thin polished layer over microscopic pits where corrosion is still active. Standard enamel paint needs a mechanically scuffed surface to grip, not a polished one, so adhesion fails fast, and the hidden rust resumes spreading underneath a coat of paint that looks fine from the outside. Every hour spent grinding felt like progress, but the metal was never actually clean, it just learned to hide better. Number 4. Heavy-duty epoxy encapsulation. Industrial two-part epoxy coatings are built for stationary equipment, not vehicles that twist and flex every time you hit a driveway lip. Applied to a car frame, epoxy cures into an extremely hard, extremely rigid shell, hard enough that it won't visibly flake even when the steel underneath has failed. The frame can flex just enough to crack the epoxy at a microscopic level, let moisture wick in, and then hide the resulting corrosion behind a shell that looks pristine until a screwdriver punches straight through it. Ironically, the harder and more impressive the coating looks on the outside, the less warning you get before the failure, because there's no flaking or bubbling to tip you off, just a solid-looking shell with nothing solid left behind it. Number 3. Chelating rust removal soaks. These premium chemical baths genuinely work for small, removable parts. Bolts, brake calipers, hand tools dropped in a bucket overnight come out clean. The scam happens when people try to apply the same logic to an entire vehicle frame, which can't be submerged without disassembling the car. Sprayed on a vertical surface, the thin liquid runs off before it has time to react. It's a legitimate chemistry with an illegitimate use case for anyone without a full restoration shop, great for a bucket of bolts, basically useless for a chassis bolted to the rest of the car. Number 2. Professional media blasting. For a few $1,000s, a shop will blast your entire undercarriage down to bare metal with abrasive media. It's effective at removing rust, and it's serious overkill for a daily driver. High-pressure blasting can force grit past seals on bearings, ball joints, and transmission housings, and it strips factory cavity wax and anti-corrosion treatments from areas that weren't even rusting. Bare blasted metal also starts flash rusting within hours, meaning you now need immediate, expensive primer and top coats just to undo the exposure you paid to create. For a show car headed to a concours lawn, that cost might make sense. For the truck you drive to work every day, it's a multi-$1,000 answer to a problem that didn't need an industrial solution. Number 1. The hardware store secret. Skip the masonry aisles, concrete etched label and look closer. The active ingredient is phosphoric acid, the same core chemistry behind premium rust converters, sold at a fraction of the price because it's marketed to contractors instead of car owners. A gallon runs around $15 and can treat an entire frame. Phosphoric acid reacts with iron oxide to form iron phosphate, a stable, hard, chemically inert compound that resists further oxidation. Because it's thin, it wicks into seams, spot welds, and crevices that thick coatings never reach. Knock the loose flakes off with a wire brush, spray the acid on, let it cure overnight, and follow up with a coat of enamel paint or a lanolin-based wax for winter. No grinding to bare metal, no compressor, no $800 invoice. Just basic chemistry doing what it was always capable of doing. If this saved you from getting talked into an $800 spray job, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. This channel is built entirely around exposing the stuff dealerships and detail shops don't want you to question. Drop a like if you've ever walked into a service lane and felt that pressure to say yes before you'd even thought it through. And if you've got a story about getting burned by one of these products, or you swear by the phosphoric acid trick yourself, tell me in the comments. I read every one of them. Next up, I'm breaking down the 5 hidden warning signs your transmission is about to fail before it leaves you stranded on the side of the road. Click the video right there to watch it now.